Chrissy Lampkin didn't simply lose it, she snapped. And Cameron, the man responsible, completely destroyed her life with a single audio leak and a terrifying message. There were no cuts or edits, just pure chaos. The leak wasn't just messy, it was agonizing. Cameron didn't hold back when Chrissy revealed things she had been concealing for years. Jim Jones, who had supported her through accusations of adultery, didn't argue or question her. Instead, he marched out of the house, without turning around. Let that sink in. Street fights and TV drama are over, and according to sources, it's not only because of the leak. The leak validates a long-running issue and a betrayal that goes deeper than anybody could have predicted. This isn't just reality TV anymore, it's a comprehensive implosion. You're telling me that after everything they've been through, after the adultery, the most controversial love story in hip-hop is ready to implode because of deceit, treachery, and hidden signals. You're about to hear the part they don't want the world to hear because once it's out, there's no going back. Chrissy Lampkin is crying about a leaked film that features Cameron. Jim Jones abruptly got up and left, as if he was finished with the entire stupid Saba baby thing. What's happening behind closed doors? Accusations, reality TV therapy, public breakdowns, and constant Instagram criticism. We're talking about betrayal, secrets that were never meant to be revealed, and a triangle that could be more than just romantic. So let's not pretend this is simply another love and hip-hop meltdown because this isn't just messy. It's radioactive. However, certain sources familiar with the case claim that a hidden movie, allegedly produced years ago, just surfaced showing Cameron and Chrissy in what seems to be a very private setting, candles lit, whispers being shared, and no sign of Jim Jones. The timing of this leak is terrible. Depending on who you ask, Jim was allegedly finalizing a commitment to Chrissy, either another proposal or a full-blown elopement when he abruptly left a private dinner. Chrissy is a wreck. An insider informed us that she hasn't stopped crying since the movie went viral. She didn't even know it existed and claims it's not what it seems, but Jim hasn't returned calls since. Friends are worried and her team is on damage control. One person who viewed it said, "I can't do this any longer." And to be honest, who can blame him? The movie is grainy and choppy, but the voices are clear and Chrissy's look is dejected. However, this is where it gets even worse. Strangely, Cameron hasn't denied anything. In fact, hours after the video went viral, he sent out a mysterious tweet, "Something should have stayed between us." The message alone ignited a digital firestorm, and many people are now wondering, was this leak actually accidental, or was it deliberate? A form of retaliation? A desperate attempt to attract attention? Let's not forget, Cameron and Jim haven't been friends for a long time. There's history and old scars. Some people even believe Chrissy was more involved in the Dipset breakup than either of them ever revealed. Could this video be the final piece of the puzzle, or is it just the beginning of a new conflict? Go back in time to the early 2000s, when Cameron, Jim Jones, and Chrissy Lampkin were enjoying their Harlem life bling, stardom, and street power. Chrissy was always there. There were rumors she wasn't always just Jim's, but nothing was ever confirmed. She was first referred to as Jim's girlfriend, then his ride or die, and lastly, the person who kept him down when no one else would. Backstage tension, side-eyes, dubious remarks in interviews Cameron once said on a mixtape. "Keep your lady near or she could wind up with me." At the time, people thought it was just bars. Then came love and hip-hop. When Chrissy proposed to Jim on national television, it wasn't just romantic, it was history. A woman standing up against the odds, a main character, a fire starter, and the emotional center of the whole thing. But there was a lot of grief behind that moment. Years of feeling abandoned and unsupported were pushed aside. And now, it seems like all that strength and effort just blew up in her face with a single leak. This is where things get sinister. Trustworthy source from the Love and Hip Hop production crew claimed that Chrissy made references to a relationship with Cameron in unreleased video sequences that were never shown. She also said some things that were cut from the show. She broke down in tears and said she felt abandoned by everyone except for one group member, whom she didn't identify, but whom everyone knew was the one she was referring to. What if that loyalty went beyond boundaries? What if Cameron was more than just a friend who supported her? Fans are scrutinizing every frame of the leaked film, and Jim's silence is loud. He hasn't posted any tweets, Instagram stories, or anything, which is disconcerting for someone as vocal and sensitive as Jim. Some people believe he's locked up in Miami. Others believe he's being wired up like the Zapruder film They're Slowing It Down, boosting the audio, comparing tattoos to old photos. The internet has turned into a massive crime lab, and Chrissy's ending doesn't look promising thus. Far. It's not just the footage, it's the timing. She was on a podcast this week talking about second chances, trust, and how she was now ready to have a child. She said, "Jim and I are stronger than we've ever been." Who could imagine saying that and then realizing betrayal wasn't just personal? The streets are buzzing. Hashtags are going viral. Chrissy cheated. Cameron received free receipts from Jim Jones. None of it makes sense, but it's trending nonetheless. But wait, there's more. A DM allegedly shared months ago by a burner account on a well-known gossip page said, "What if I told you Jim's girl was mine?" At first, it was laughed off and removed, but now it's being screenshotted, shared, and scrutinized like gospel. And everyone's asking the same question. Was this a slow-burning plot or a time bomb set to go off when it hurt the most? You know, Mama Scott Young is somewhere sipping tea, laughing, planning the reunion episode of a lifetime, the kind of drama you can't create, but perhaps you can. Perhaps someone did. Since there's a theory that this entire situation was stage managed to get hits, contracts, and influence. However, if that's the case, someone forgot to tell Chrissy because her tears are real. Her breakdown is authentic. Numerous witnesses think she had a panic attack at a meeting, shaking, hyperventilating, and screaming, "I didn't do this." If that's acting, give her an Oscar. Chrissy was enthralled, and the silence between them seemed to steal every breath. Her legs became weak, and she sat at the edge of the velvet couch, silently holding her phone as though it had just destroyed. Her dreams that included Cameron's film, which was not only filthy but also explosive, containing what appeared to be voicemails. She felt betrayal reverberating off the walls. Fans were quick to analyze every word, even comparing the audio tone to Chrissy's earlier footage from years ago, where she seemed to mock ever being loyal to Jim in an angry voice. Worse, she hinted at a backup plan that had been in place all along. The internet investigators were busy. A message that sent everyone into a panic lit up the comment sections. People began speculating that Chrissy had been plotting the entire time, while Jim was focused on the wrong target. Meanwhile, sources said Jim Jones had driven out of their house in a black SUV with tinted windows, his face expressionless. He hadn't texted Chrissy or spoken since the video emerged, and the silence was more powerful than any scream. Then came another startling discovery. A website known for posting shady receipts shared a screenshot of what they claimed was a previous text exchange between Chrissy and Cameron. Chrissy allegedly wrote, "If this goes wrong, I know." Cameron allegedly replied with a cheeky emoji and said, "They simply aren't aware that I got you like I always did." People immediately began to speculate. Was this a covert affair behind Jim's back? Was it full-blown betrayal or something else entirely? At this stage, the bloggers weren't merely reporting, they were flooding gossip channels and scheduling exclusive interviews with the pair's alleged acquaintances. One anonymous source, posing as a hairstylist for Chrissy's social circles, revealed information, though she remained silent on social media. Now famous TikToker Chrissy used to laugh when Cameron's name was mentioned, as though he wasn't her boyfriend's op, Jim Jones. Mona Scott, executive producer of Love and Hip Hop, published a mysterious statement with some information, and the industry started to react. Chrissy then unfollowed both Cameron and Jim on Instagram after seeing a 2007 image of the two of them in a private backstage situation. Cam's hand resting low on Chrissy's waist, her face too close to his ear. Even celebrities began to chip in. Although the incontrovertible proof photo had been ignored in the past, Yandy Smith issued a suspicious tweet. "Karma always has the last say. Don't appear fresh and new when the receipts were always there." Mel reminded people of her comment underneath a blog post, "Betrayal will cost you everything." The response wasn't just digital, it was also financial. Several companies Chrissy had partnered with began to distance themselves. A high-end wig firm she promoted simply pulled back. One jewelry line canceled her next campaign and issued a vague statement about adhering to principles and trust, claiming they were losing business. According to people close to the rapper, he had been completely absent from Miami, with no public appearances or studio sessions. In fact, a fan posted a blurry picture of him at a South Beach hotel. His face appeared exhausted, as if dishonest, on all fronts. By day 4 of the scandal, public sympathies began to shift. While Chrissy was previously seen as dramatic, now the drama was veering into uncharted territory. Cameron alluded to producing a second book, and the Ride or Die fans began labeling Chrissy a mastermind. Memes appeared with names like Plot Twist Queen, The Real Reason Jim Never Married Her, and Chrissy, the invisible villain of Dipset. The internet added 10 more layers to the conspiracy with every minute Chrissy remained silent. After a leak concerning paperwork that could put a stop to the story, things somehow got even worse. A new rumor started to circulate. Chrissy could have been the one to plant the seeds of suspicion years earlier, pushing Jim to break up his relationship with Cam, control the story, and protect her own secrets. The question wasn't whether Chrissy was guilty, but rather, how much of Jim's life had she impacted with falsehoods? By this point, it was more than just a dispute, it was a tragic movie. Chrissy's name became popular because she was falling apart like never before. According to close sources, Chrissy had isolated herself in a secluded Hamptons villa, avoiding the media and even breaking off contact with her closest pals. One anonymous stylist told a gossip website she isn't responding to anyone, not even her mother. She spends her days crying. The floor is covered with broken glass. Her sheets are covered in makeup. It's dark. Cameron knew exactly how to dish it out. Exactly 1 week after the first leak, Cam returned to Instagram with a second live video, this time dangling a document. Despite Chrissy's breakdown, the audience showed no compassion. They were hungry. He titled the folder, The Last Straw, PDF. He just looked into the camera and nodded for the first 30 seconds, while hundreds of people watched the chat flood with, "Stop it and finish it." Cam said, "You wanted answers? Let me explain. Why Jim stopped trusting his own crew, how Dipset broke up, and why loyalty is a joke in this line of work." He displayed 2 old blurry photos on the computer. What they appeared to show sent social media into a frenzy. The first showed Chrissy lounging next to an unidentified male in a dimly lit lounge. 5 minutes after he entered, the mystery man was seen with his arms draped over her shoulder, her eyes closed, smiling in front of a hotel room door. Cam didn't reveal the man's name, but Twitter figured it out in less than an hour. The #mysteryguy trended, with theories flying. Some suggested a well-known music executive, others speculated a rival rapper who had mocked Jim Jones in a 2015 song. The most bizarre theory? That it was an A-list actress who had a private relationship with Chrissy and wanted a piece of Jim's business. Regardless of the truth, the story had already changed. It became worse when a third unnamed person, claiming to be a former assistant to Mona Scott, posted an audio recording of a woman who sounded very much like Chrissy. The voice said, "Cameron knows too much. I urged him not to say anything because if he flips, I'm done, and Jim would actually leave me this time." The voice wasn't verified, but it didn't matter. The video went viral, garnering attention. On blogs as Chrissy's last confession hit 3,000 plus comments on Reddit threads in less than 2 hours. Fans started assembling whole expose videos on Chrissy's allegedly manipulative techniques over the years. When Jim Jones appeared in New York by himself at a club performance that had been planned months in advance, he didn't rap or perform. He just stood in the VIP area with his arms crossed, a drink in hand, while the DJ played classic Dipset songs. When We Fly High began, the crowd began chanting, "Chrissy, Chrissy." Jim remained silent, simply closing his eyes. Some said he seemed like he was praying. Others claimed he was silently repeating each line in slow motion. Back at Chrissy's retreat, sources claimed she was under watch. One anonymous nurse told a tabloid, "She's having extremely high blood pressure, trouble breathing, and keeps repeating, 'He hates me. He'll never forgive me. It's over.'" After a panic attack nearly sent her to the emergency room, Chrissy, once queen of New York's most dangerous circles, had become nearly unrecognizable. And just when the public thought it couldn't get any more venomous, a fourth party joined in. Jim's mother, famous for putting it straight, went live on Facebook, emotionally dragging Chrissy. "I told you she wasn't right, and you all called me a hater. You think I didn't catch the sly glances and the secret conversations? Now, you know what I saw? This woman tried to safeguard her child, and you all clowned her. Don't miss it." It was the last straw for Chrissy's public image. The ride or die turned backstabber, the woman who waited 20 years for a ring, now seemed like the villain. Mona Scott was allegedly ready to re-edit and re-release an old Love and Hip Hop special with a new backdrop, but she never got the chance. According to a leaked email obtained by a dubious media site, an unidentified editor wanted to drop a contentious cut now that it was game time. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore, it was about remaking history. Brands weren't just severing relationships with Chrissy, they were suing. One fashion collaboration demanded a $60,000 advance refund, claiming their image was damaged. Another partnership attempted to block Chrissy from calling herself their ambassador. Even though she was still missing, someone close to her reportedly attempted to contact Jim with a handwritten note. The message that seeped into the dark room read, "I don't want forgiveness. I want the truth to stop being weaponized. I wasn't perfect, but I never wanted to ruin you. I loved you even when I lost myself." Was it real or fake? Who knows? The man who had supported her through thick and thin was now out here alone and focused. If the rumors are true, he was already being approached by record labels, firms, and streaming platforms to tell his story in a full-length documentary series. But Cameron was still trolling, and Chrissy was still hidden. Cam posted a final meme with the comment, "Love, don't pay attention." And just like that, the internet decided Cameron the instigator, Jim the victim, the king of minor crime, and Chrissy the betrayal blueprint who wasn't sorry. Closure? Just a mess.